It's a huge problem, isn't it? The biggest problem that we face today is not opposition, it's apathy. And some people even talk about apatheism as one of the problems that we face. There's theism, there's atheism, but then there's just apatheism, which is you don't care if God exists. Well, my best shot at trying to jar people out of their apathy is what I call the absurdity of life without God. And what I try to do is draw upon the insights of atheistic existentialist writers themselves to show that if God does not exist, then life is ultimately absurd. And I analyze that in terms of life having no ultimate meaning, no ultimate value, and no ultimate purpose. And this leads to a very, very grim view of life. It leads to despair. In fact, I think it is a view that is so filled with despair that it's impossible, I argue, to live consistently and happily within the framework of such an atheistic worldview. If the atheist lives consistently, he would be profoundly unhappy, in despair, deeply depressed. If he manages to live happily, as most do, it's only because they do not carry out their worldview to its logical conclusion, but live as though their lives were meaningful, valuable, and purposeful, even though they have no basis for it. And then I'll say to the non-believer, given the unlivability of atheism, shouldn't you go back to square one and say, well, maybe atheism isn't right after all. Maybe there really is a God. And if that's true, that means that life does have value, meaning, and purpose, and you can live consistently and happily within the framework of such a worldview. So that's my best shot. And if that doesn't jar them or budge them, then I think there's probably nothing left but prayer. Just to pray for that person that God will awaken him. I think that for single people, when they get married and start to have children, this is when reality hits, because you're faced with the question, what am I going to teach my children about moral values? Are there really moral values, or really is everything permitted? There really is no right and wrong, good and evil. And that's pretty tough to raise kids with that sort of nihilistic view. So this may come home to roost later on. Give time for the seed to be watered and to sprout.